What's up, everyone? So, I heard the news about Belisarius Prime, and I wanted to give my own input as a free to play, whether I think this commander is good, whether I think this commander is even worth investing in, or just leave him on the bench. So, without further ado, Rise of Kingdoms recently announced that Belisarius Prime will be coming on their Instagram, as you can see, and we can see right here, he's cavalry, versatility, and mobility, which I don't really like. Obviously, you don't want really mobility on an open field commander. If you look at actually Nevsky, basically most of the recent Cav open field commanders have been cavalry skill. Huo was also cavalry skill. Joan was cavalry and support. So it's a little awkward having cavalry and mobility on an open field commander. Most likely, if anything, Belisarius will probably be a secondary commander. Now that I look at his talent trees, we'll see once he's released. Obviously, this is all speculation on my part. Let's look at his abilities first of all. So they were also released on the Instagram, but I'm going to go through on Canvas for you guys. Or Canvas, sorry. So this is his active skill. Single target. Rage requirement is pretty normal, 1k. The damage factor is only sitting at 2400. So if we compare that to Huo, who recently released, Huo's is 2700. So it's a little, for new gen, I'd say this is a little underwhelming number to only do 2400. Maybe the developers thought that this target losing rage as well as the deception effect might sort of off balance that. So for the next 2 seconds, the target loses 50 rage per second. If the target is surrounded, is inflicted with the deception effect for 5 seconds. So its active skill requires 200 more rage to use, effectively 1200 rage before you cast an active skill on most commanders. I don't think this is particularly bad, but I would have preferred something with a more hard status effect. Like Huo, we have 50% march speed reduction. Nevsky, we have a defense reduction based on the number of troops surrounding the target. So I think this is a little weaker than the normal status effects we get on some cavalry commanders. I don't think it's particularly bad. Obviously, losing rage can be helpful, and delaying the active skill on some commanders by 1 turn can be helpful. I don't think this is bad. The damage factor is a little low, I'd say, for new gen commanders. We saw Huo 2700, so I think this is a little lower than where we want to be for new gen, especially for cavalry, which has been, in my opinion, cavalry's been the strongest troop type just because of how overpowered the new commanders have been. Nevsky is pretty old now. Joan and Huo have been very dominant in the meta, in my opinion, for the last 2 years. I mean, Nevsky's been around for 2.5, who knows how long, years. But this is not a bad skill, I'd say, but it does pale a little bit, in my opinion, compared to some of the other active skills that most cavalry commanders have. Press the advantage. This commander's cavalry units gain 30% attack and 20% march speed. So this is pretty normal, giving them march speed as well as attack. Whenever this commander's troops exit combat, cavalry units in their troop gain 60% march speed for 5 seconds. I don't really see the point for adding this. 60% march speed when exiting combat. It sort of reminds me of Bars. He has a skill where he gets like 50% march speed for 10 seconds after exiting combat. It sort of feels like a reskin of that a little bit, except this is 5 seconds. People will be saying this is very useful for OL or Cyrus League, and that does make sense. I don't think it's that impactful when it comes to open field. Maybe it can help a little bit when you exit combat and you want to refresh your marches. Getting that extra march speed obviously does help, but this is not a very impactful buff for open field. 30% attack and 20% march speed are nice, but this part of the skill feels a little off, in my opinion, for field. Maybe this is primarily for Arc or OL, I don't know. But this part of the skill feels a little off. It's like this is his third skill. 25% defense. This commander's cavalry gains 20% defense. While this commander's troop is on the map, whenever it launches a basic attack, it has a 10% chance to deal extra direct damage to the target. 500. Cooldown 5 seconds. So the 25% defense is obviously nice. It makes it march a little tankier. And we know cavalry gear is pretty heavy on health as well. Unfortunately, this damage factor does sound low. If you look at actually William, who has a damage factor as well. William does 800 at max rank. Mine is only at 5541. So once again, pretty low numbers for new gen. 500 at max rank is pretty low in my opinion. 25% defense, it's good. Obviously, Huo, who recently released as well, has 30% defense. So I think this number, it's okay. It's okay, obviously, but it feels a little weaker than I expected, especially for new gen commanders. but it doesn't look too bad so far, I'd say. What do we have here? Pacification of Nika. The commander's troops take 10% less skill damage. If this commander's troops is attacking another troop on the map and a target troop has less than 80% units remaining, this commander's troops deal 30% more skill damage. So this doesn't look too bad. The target troop has 80%, less than 80%. This target troops deal 30% more skill damage. So normally in combat, you'll be fighting enemies that are yellow or red. Most of the times they won't even be full health. So I'd say most times this will be always active. So it's just this commander's troops. It's not all your troops. It's just the march. And 10% less skill damage is obviously helpful as well. Not a bad skill. 30% more skill damage. It depends who you're pairing it with. It's too soon to say what the best pairs will be. Maybe Huo, maybe Nevsky. It's honestly too soon to call it. I don't know how good this commander will be yet, but the last skill, the expertise, is by far the most exciting in my opinion. So, Roman Devotion. If the current target of the commander's troops is surrounded, increases the target's damage received based on the number of troops surrounding it. So 3 troops deals 6% more damage, 4 troops deals 9% more damage, and 5 troops deals 12% more damage. So this is obviously the skill I'm most excited for with this commander. If you're attacking with 5 troops, including the Belisarius March, it will deal 12% more all damage. So that's very important. 12% more all damage. And this should apply to all of your marches that are attacking. The march, I feel like it's very good for open field players. If you're just targeting one troop, you'll very easily just melt it, honestly. This feels like something which I really like, in my opinion. But you need to expertise it, obviously, to get this skill. So I think, honestly, it doesn't sound too bad. I think it's a little squishier than I like. The last 2 commanders for cavalry both have been pretty squishy. Nevsky was obviously very overtuned stats-wise, in my opinion. So maybe this is just them saying we're going to slow down a little on the defensive stats. We're going to make them more attack-heavy. Obviously, this expertise will change a lot on the field, in my opinion. I think this is the main reason I'm considering investing in Belisarius Prime. My current configuration is 2 cavalry, 1 infantry, and 1 archers. And I do think it may be worth investing for me personally. Do I think it's worth it for new players? No, I do not think this commander is worth it for new players. I think this is a good commander for people who maybe need a 5th or 6th march, but I do not think this commander does a lot of damage inherently. Most of the damage that comes from this commander will be like sort of the 12% more all damage to all your marches. So you benefit a lot more from Belisarius by having a lot of marches. But this is not a bad commander, in my opinion. Obviously, this is the open field commander for the next gen cav. We'll also be getting most likely a garrison commander released in probably the next 1 or 2 days, I'd say. But I think most likely this commander will make the top 3 cav marches, not the top 2. I definitely say this commander feels, in my opinion, less impactful than William, just because William still brings me a lot to the field. It brings me that rage buff. It basically removes the skill damage buffs, and honestly, I feel like William does so much more on the field compared to this commander. But I do think the all damage buff when you're swarming a target is going to be very interesting to see. It's too soon to say how good this commander will be. Even the garrison commander might be better than Belisarius. So we will see going forward if the garrison commander can maybe match this level. Obviously, we saw with Gorgo, with infantry, how Gorgo has been a very good field option for 2 infantry marches as well. So I think this commander has potential. It could probably go with Huo or Nevsky, but like I said in the beginning, most likely it'll be secondary because of the talent trees. Mobility is not really something very PvP oriented, so most likely this will be a secondary commander, which is okay. Unlike Huo cannot be secondary because his active skill essentially loses half damage when he's secondary. So there is some flexibility when it comes to Belisarius. Whether he'll be super good on open field is still too soon to say. Like I said, 5-6 marches, maybe more, will be where that sort of sweet spot is for you to use him, in my opinion. Do I think he's better than Nevsky Joan? No, I don't think he'll be better than Nevsky Joan. I don't think if you include like Belisarius Joan, he will not be meta or good in that configuration. It's hard for me to see him being like a very good DPS march, like a single target DPS march. Like if my Nevsky Joan has been doing very good consistently, 113 mil kills. I've been using it for quite a while. I do not see this commander getting me a lot of kills on that march alone, but I do see him bringing in a lot of kills through the sort of utility he brings with his expertise. So I don't think he's that strong without the expertise, in my opinion. This is sort of a commander I think you have to max in order to get the full utility out of him. There are some commanders that obviously you can leave at like 5-5-1 configuration, like William I'd say is okay to leave at 5-5-1. But this commander you definitely need to max if you want to get this all damage buff. But I think if you're less than 3 marches, I'd say do not run this commander. I'd say just focus on getting one of each of the meta marches first rolling. So Scipio Luce, Nevsky Joan, and Zoo Kerman. I'd say get those 3 marches going first before considering investing in Belisarius. This guy is definitely more of the 5th march quality, but I think he will be very strong if you're running 5 marches. Obviously too soon to say. I'm probably considering maxing him just because I want to run 3 cav marches next KVK. But it is obviously all still too soon to say. But I think this commander will be very good for field players if you have 5 or 6 marches. So that's how I feel about the commander. I'm probably going to invest in him myself. Whether you should is up to you, your number of gold heads. Obviously, commanders like this release about every 2.5 to 3 months. So it depends if you are able to save enough between each generation commanders. So next after cavalry will be infantry. And we are probably expecting after the next gen infantry to probably be smite commanders. So that's my assumption, at least, because they released Gorgo and Luce, both smite commanders. I'm assuming the next gen infantry will both be smite. So if you do not have, if you're not that excited by this commander, I would definitely recommend saving for the next gen infantry, because it is a possibility that next gen infantry will be better than this commander. But I will be investing in this commander most likely just because I want that expertise, and I feel like it's very beneficial for me, who's going to be running 5 marches, to get this all damage buff on my marches. So that's my sort of rundown of this. If you liked it, let me know. Also, sort of a closing note, 2268, my kingdom, will be, we're in KVK right now. So we're going to enter Lost Kingdom actually in 24 hours. Not 24 hours, sorry, 20 hours. And it's going to be interesting. I didn't talk that much about my KVK. I'm not super excited about the KVK, but I just say thank you to all the people who watched my streams as well. I'm going to be streaming this KVK as well. Maybe every few days I'll be streaming once we enter Lost Kingdom. So stay tuned for that if you ever want to watch how I play as free-to-play. Just a disclaimer, I'm pretty good on the field. And stay tuned. I know this video is a little late, obviously, but I've been busy. So I'll try to make more videos as we go, but I'll be also streaming as well, probably every 2-3 days. So thank you.